person says, I want to be a Nazir for an hour for 30 days. Because there's nothing less than 30 days. Person says, I want to be a Nazir for 30 days and an hour. Hareini Nazir l'shloshim yom and an hour. So then he's a Nazir for 31 days. That's the Mishnah. Why? If he says, I want to be a Nazir and a day, so the Nazir is 30, and a day is like, that's a second Nazirus. He says, I want to be a Nazir for 30 days and an hour. So because he's speaking about the amount of, a person can say, I want to be a Nazir for 40 days. It could be a Nazir for 40 days. It could be a Nazir for 100 days. But if he says 30 days, I want to be a Nazir for 30 days and an hour, that's the equivalent of 31 days. Okay? Person says 31 days, he's a Nazir for 31 days. Hareini Nazir shloshim yom v'sho'achas. The Mishnah. Nazir shloshim v'achad yom. He's a Nazir for what? For 31 days. Why? Shein Nazir l'shos. There's no such thing as a Nazir which is less than, it's always in days. There's no such thing as 30 days and an hour. It's always by the day. Okay? Rav Omer Rav lo shana elo doma shloshim v'echad yom. Aval Omer shloshim yom v'yom echad. Let's say he says, I want to be a Nazir shloshim v'echad yom. How do you say 31 days? Shloshim v'echad yom. Let's say he said, I want to be a Nazir shloshim yom v'yom echad. So one yom is extra, right? He could have said shloshim v'echad yom. What does it mean? Shloshim yom v'yom echad, and 1 day. So 1 day means it seems to be a separate day. So it's like saying independent, I want to be a Nazir for a day. You want to be a Nazir for a day, you're a day. So this person is being a Nazir for 30, for a double Nazirus. 30 and then another 30. Okay? Omer Avol Shana Omer Shloshim v'echad yom. Avol Omer Shloshim yom ve'yom echad. Nazir shtayim. Then he's a double Nazir. 30, finishes, starts another one. So the question is why? Because he said a word, which is what? Which wasn't necessary to say. It's called Yitur Loshen. He said something which was superfluous. So the Yitur Loshen indicates something. Because people who speak excessively, we don't say a person just speaks just off the top of his head. A person says something, he means what he said. So what did that additional Yom Echad mean? It meant the second. So Morris says, Rav Sovalok Rabbi Akiva. Interesting. We'll see in a moment. The Dorish Lishna de Yisero. Rav follows the position of Rabbi Akiva, who actually gives value to if you use an excessive, something excess to what could have been said. You said more than it's necessary. If not, listen to the case. Now, if a person sells his field to you, listen, I sell you my field. My field is yours. And in the field you have a water hole. And you have a storage location. When I said I'm selling you my field, does it include everything? Or do I say no? It means the field, just the field, doesn't mean all the other amenities on the field. Well, no, when I say a field means all-inclusive. Okay? So let's say I would say, I sell you my field, and let's say that includes, we say that includes the pit, the water hole, and it'll include other things. Different shaped pits, storage space. Alpi shekoslo umkavrumo, v'tzorach lo likach lo derech divrei be'akiva. Hear this. Second. Not lo esabor v'lo sadus. Avka shekoslo umkavrumo, tzorach likach lo derech divrei be'akiva. 1 second. There you go. One second. Now, interesting. I say to you, I'm selling you the house. I'm selling my house. A house has to be accommodated. You didn't say the field. I'm selling you my house. A house has to be accommodated with, you have a water hole. You live in a house, you need water. So Rabbi Akiva says when a person sells something, he sells it very generously. So even though he didn't say house and water cistern, and storage location. Since the person is generous when he sells something, so therefore it included that. Okay? So now the buyer who bought the house, how does he get there? See, so the water hole and the water storage locations in the field. Who does the field belong to? To the seller. The seller didn't sell that. He sold whatever is necessary for the house. So now, what about the easement? He didn't sell him the easement, right? So if that's the case, he has to purchase it. The man says, you want to get to your hole? Go fly over it, right? So that means he has to purchase the easement to get there, okay? Or the rights. Non lo sabor v'lo sadus. What about if Rabbi Kiva says, what about he writes, I'm not selling you the bor and not the dus. Another shaped pit. If normally he says, I'm selling you the house, right, what does he mean? It includes the water cistern and the storage location. What about he says, I'm selling you the house and not the pit and not the dus. Even though he says what's above and below is yours, okay? So what did you do? You retained. He sold the field. He says, I'm selling you the field, but not the pit in the field and not the storage location in the field. Okay? So now, he kept that for himself. But the seller, how does he get to his pit and field? Reb Kiva says he has to purchase the easement to get there. The seller has to purchase it. Because what do you write? Not the dus and not the field. That's the... No, which means normally would be included. So when he said not, so what is he not including? That. But what about the easement to get there? Right? The easement he has to purchase. We're talking about the seller. Why? Because if he left that for himself, a person normally is not generous when he sells something. So if he retained for himself the pit and the storage pit, the cistern, of course he retained for himself the derech to get there. Reb Kiva says, Mo Reb Kiva, Bizman she'omalo chutz mi'elu. Yeah. But let's say he writes, I'm selling a field except for the pit and except for that. He sells him the field, it includes the what? It includes the pit and includes the storage location. Lo sabor lo sadus apishkoslo apushko umkavilbo. 1 second. Lo mocha likach lo derech leil bor v'doshelo o yifrach v'aved Rekiva ksover b'anyofu mocha lo shayr lo derech latzmo. Tzorch lo lemocher likach lo the seller has to likach lo derech leil bor v'doshelo opening for whatever why the ksover b'anyofu right. When I sell you the field, I sell you everything, meaning even the easement. The water hole and the pit source, I don't sell you. Right? I'm not selling you that. I'm selling you my field. That means every part of the field. What about the easement to get to the pit? That's part of the field. No. Normally, if I say I'm retaining for myself the pit, normally when I sell a field, I don't sell the pit and the storage location, right? But Reb Kiva says when I sell you a field, I sell it generously. That means every bit of the field. Field means something which is not a water cistern and not a storage location. So that means that includes the easement. So how does he get to the easement? So he has to buy it from the buyer. The seller has to repurchase it from the buyer. Okay? Even though you say it's contrary to it's illogical, right? But I said field. So let's say if I say except for the pit and except for the storage location, what do you have to say that? Right? It's not included in either case. It's not included. So what did he mean when he said that? It's totally superfluous. That's when he has to buy it. Then he doesn't have to buy the easement. No, if he would have said nothing, he would have kept the pit and the storage location, the seller. When I sell a field, what am I selling you the field? It means the surface. That's what I'm selling you. I'm not selling you the water cistern, I'm selling you the storage location on the field. So we say what? You sold everything. That means even the easement you sold. How do you get it? You have to buy it from the buyer. The seller's buy it. What about it? I'm selling you everything but the storage pit and the water system. Now, why do you have to write that? That's totally superfluous. That's understood you never sold it. So evidently to tell me, not only that's not so, even the easement I didn't sell. Because it's excess. He said more than he had to say. So Rabbi Kiva says, if you say more than you have to say, a person doesn't just say extra words. So in that case, he doesn't have to buy the easement, okay? Ain't tzorach likas, he says. Tzorach likach lo derech divrei Rabbi Kiva. Chamom ain't tzorach likach lo derech. However, Monday Rabbi Kiva, b'zman she'omalu chutz me'elu, which is unnecessary to write, she'eino tzorach likach lo derech. Because what did you write it for? To say that the pit and the cistern is not his, the buyer's. We already knew that without writing anything. So why do you write this excess language? To tell you it's more than that. It's come to include something else. What does it come to include? The what? The easement. That the easement you're retaining for yourself. Follow what he's saying. So therefore, Rav is following Rabbi Kiva, not the Chachamim. I'll tell you what my difficulty is. Nobody asks it. Maybe in the footnote they ask it. I mean, over there, the Ankh to Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, when a person sells something, does he sell b'ayin yofeh? Doesn't sell b'ayin yofeh. Does he sell the generous? Is he generous or not? So when he sells the field, he even sold the easement. So we say the excess language, what he say it, it's unnecessary. The answer is to include that. According to the Chacham, the whole thing doesn't even come up. What he say it? The easement was his anyway. The answer is there's no explanation. There is no explanation. You understand? And that, let's say I have a certain context where it's clear the man meant nothing when he wrote those extra words. Right? We're saying, according to the Chachamim, a person sells b'ayin ro hu mocher. When you sell, I only give as much as I have to give. Okay? So I sell you the field. I don't sell general. That means the easement, just as the pit is mine and the storage location is mine, I retain the easement to get there. So Reb Kiva says, no, when you sell something, you sell generously, including the easement, even if it's to your detriment, because now you have to buy it back, right? Otherwise, you should have been more specific that you're not selling the easement. Okay. So now, we say, now when he writes, except for the pit, except for the water cistern, that he's addressing the easement, that he's retaining that for himself, because it's not necessarily right. Why the Chachamim? How would you interpret that? The Chacham he never gave the easement. Because the Chacham of the opinion, a person when he sells something, he doesn't sell b'ayin yofeh. So there's no indication of Chacham arguing this principle. You understand what I'm saying? The easement is owned by, originally the seller owned everything. The question is, what did he sell? Did he sell the easement to the pit or not? He says, I'm selling you the field. So the field includes the easement. Yeah, right. Right. He never sold it. If he sold it, that means he has no right to get to the pit. How does he get there? He has to purchase it. The right to be able to walk through the field to get to the pit. No, that's a public easement. Something became a public easement, the person who owns the field cannot take away from the public. From the public. Initially, the whole field's mine. It's nobody else's easement. It was my field. It was my water system. It was my storage pit. So, of course, I could get there. It's my field. Now, I sell the field entirely. What was included in that sale? Does that include the easement? Doesn't include the easement. Rabbi Kiva says it does. Even though it's the detriment of the seller. Right? It's his detriment. Because now he has to go buy it back. But unless you're specific, we say you give it, field means the full field. What about if you write something, but there was never consideration of the pit and the water system? Never a consideration. Everybody agrees to that. So according to that, well, let's see, right, except for the pit, except for the water system. Did he have to write that? He didn't have to write that. So it was never considered. So the answer, that language is totally superfluous. So what do you write that? It means the access, easement to the water pit, to the storage location. Because according to Reb Kiva, initially, because he sold everything. It's Ayin Yofet, but according to the Chacham who don't know the Ayin Yofet, there was never a consideration he sold the easement. Right? So therefore, writing that extra language, how would I interpret it? It wasn't necessary. Wasn't necessary. Yeah, but you don't have a proof. Well, let's say I have a situation where he could have said it one way and he said it differently. Right? He could have said Shloshim ve'echad yom. He said Shloshim yom v'yom echad. So there, the yom echad does indicate something. Maybe even the Chacham agree there. You want to say it's definitely Reb Kiva, no question. But I could say it's also maybe going like the Chachamim. Over there, it's not possible to explain it any other way. Because the Chacham, he never sold the easement. So what, he's retained the easement? He doesn't have to retain something that was never a consideration he ever sold. You understand what's bothering me?
Yeah.
So that's superfluous. The Yom Echad is 2 sentences zeros. And then start over again. He wants to say, the Gemara wants to say, but according to the Chacham, no, it's 30, whether you say Shloshim Yom V'Yom Echad or Shloshim V'Echad Yom, it's all the same thing. I'm saying no, maybe the Chacham, I'm asking, maybe the Chacham would agree. Because here it could be interpreted as something else. There's nothing else to interpret it. It was his anyway. He doesn't have to say extra language to retain it. There was never consideration he ever sold it. According to Rebbe Kiva, it's Ayin Yofeh. They're not comparable. That's my question. That's my difficulty with the Gemara. Okay, I have to give Howard homework when he goes to Israel to work on certain things. No, the easement never included the pit and the water system. Never. That field means the field. No, that's the argument of keeping the Chachamim. I say I sold the field. Field means if the easement's part of the field, I sold it for easement. No, there was never a consideration sold that. Never a consideration sold the water system or that. Field means the field. Means that's the surface. Now, but so according to Reb Kiva, I mean, it's a chiddush. I mean, you do something, I sell something, then I have to repurchase it. I have no way to get to my water pit, my water hole, or my storage location. Doesn't make, you said field includes everything. That's the way a person does. Generous. Even if it means I have to repurchase it. Someone says, no, it doesn't make any sense. You're not going to do something which is detrimental to yourself. No, he can do whatever he wants. It's his field. It was saying he has to purchase it. The seller has to purchase it. It says. Ein tzorach likach lo. Reb Kiva says tzorach likach lo. The seller has to buy an easement to get to his pit. Otherwise, he's out. He's locked out. Is your pit okay? So you have a problem. How are you going to get there? Right, of course. Reb Kiva still, right. That's the Chachomim. We don't say that. He says the person sells a field. Field means everything, total. No, we don't rule like Reb Kiva. We don't rule. No, but it's irrelevant. But we're saying, we're saying the Mishnah is going like Rabbi Akiva. He said it one way, then say it differently. Rab is going like Rabbi Akiva. So Rab's that if there's extra, we give value to that. According to the Gemara says it's not extra. But I'm saying in case it's not comparable. Okay, further, next Mishnah. We had this mention on Lamed. Person says, Hareini Nazir Kesaroshim. Here, I want to be a Nazir as much hair as I have on my head. So if you multiply the amounts of hair he has on his head, that means the rest of his life, the Nazir. Ka'ofar Oretz. I want to be as much dust as you have on the earth. No, because the question is like this. If a person's a Nazir Olam, we had earlier, Avshalom was a Nazir Olam. That means whenever his hair became weighty, he would cut his hair and bring a korban. Person says, I will be a Nazir la'olam, forever. You're a Nazir, let's say a person says, I want to be a Nazir for 1,000 days. The man is stuck, he can never cut his hair. It's only after 1,000 days he cuts his hair, and that's when he'll bring his korban. So if a person says, Hareini Nazir Kisar Roshi, Chavar Ofer, Cholia Hareza Nazir Olam. He's a Nazir Olam. It means whenever he wants to, we had earlier, what's considered your hair is every 30 days, you lighten your hair, you bring a korban. You count another 30 days. So, Megaleach, Ach Stoshim Yom. Okay? So, Gemara differentiated. Even though the Gemara said, a person says, I'll be a Nazir as what? What said a case? No. I'll be a Nazir Gedola. So the Gemara says that means, it doesn't mean it's unlimited. It means that it's difficult. When I accept Nazir upon me, it's very difficult. So the Gemara asked that question. Maybe it also means very difficult. It says no. Because where he could have said the amount of time. Right? He said it should be like the hairs on my head. So where he could have said, he did say, where he could have said the amount of time he didn't, what did he mean? He meant it's difficult. We'll see. No, you can't. If you say you're going to be a nazir like the hair on your head or that, hooray, alai nazirios. He has to add the word naziros. If he says hooray alai kasar roshi, that's one endless naziros, and that he can never cut his hair. He has to say hooray alai nazirios kasar roshi. I want to be as many times a nazir, the equivalent of the hair on my head. He has to add the word naziros. Okay? Multiples. Okay? So if it's once, no. According to the Tanakama, it's a nazir olam, like Sholom. Every 30 days cut his hair. So it's not multiple naziros. It's the equivalent of that. He's here. It's like he's counting. He's accepting himself. He says, "I'm counting myself 1,000 multiples of naziros." Right? Not that's not Avshalom. Avshalom, I am a nazir for all my life, and the nazir for all your life means every 30 days, when you cut your hair, you're permitted, you have to bring korbanos. Right? That's Avshalom. But he says, yeah, but it's a different. Nazir Olam means it's not, I'm going to be a nazir for 120. First, I'll be a nazir for 120 years. That's not Avshalom. That's a nazir le'olam. There you're a nazir forever. Nazir olam means it's what? And even when his hair gets wavy, he can never cut his hair. Nothing. He's not allowed. He's not allowed to cut his hair. Where he says, I'll be a nazir for the rest of my life. He says, I'll be a nazir for the rest of my life. All my life. No, he says, I'll be a nazir olam. I'll be a nazir forever. Forever, he says, I'll be a nazir forever. Then he's a nazir every 30 days he'd cut his hair. Okay? There's a difference. Nazir olam or nazir le'olam. Are you a nazir forever or I am a nazir olam? Okay? So Rebbe says you have to say, Harei alai naziros kisar roshi. Uchafa oretz chol yom. Harei nazir mole abayis. Now it's interesting. What about if it says, I'll be a nazir, the equivalent of the space in a house. We'll see. The question is, it could mean one or two things. It could mean the equivalent of an empty house or a full house. As if the house would be filled with mustard seed. You know how much mustard seed you can put into a house? That means you can be busy with this for the rest of your life. Plus. O mole akupa, or a box, it filled, or he says, the equivalent of the capacity of a box. The capacity of a house or the capacity of a box. Both can also. He has to demand the question. Im Omar Achas Gdodo Nuzarti Nozlav. He says, you know what I meant to say? The equivalent of the capacity of a house. That's how difficult it is for me. Right? Because it could mean an empty house, it could be a full house. So if it's an empty house, what does that do? It's like saying it's overwhelming. Even though it's overwhelming, I'm accepting. But how many days is that? 30 days is overwhelming. Vim Omar Stam Nozarti. What he says, I didn't mean overwhelming. I meant whatever that means. You see the box as if it's filled with mustard seed. The nazir kol yomov, and he's nazir for the rest of his life, for his whole life. Hareini nazir mikan ad mokum ploni. He says, I'll be a nazir from here into a certain location. Omdin kamiyome mikan ad mokum ploni. We evaluate how many days does it take to travel from this location to that location. Mora said earlier, Mora says, but maybe it also means It's as difficult for me as to travel. So it says he already started to travel. Since he already embarked on the trip, so clearly when he made the statement, he meant the distance. So as many days as it takes to travel there, that's as many days, it says. Impochs milamed yom, let's say it takes 5 days. So it's the equivalent of saying, I'll be in Nazir 5 days. Versus, I'll be in those 5 days. How many days is he in Nazir? 30 days. V'im lav, what about it takes 100 days to travel to that location? What, 40 days? Kaminyan, ayomim, as many days it takes to travel, that's as many days as he's in Nazir. Hareini Nazir kaminyan yemos hachamo. Here, he says, I'll be in Nazir as many days as there is in a year. 365 days, that's what he says. Kaminyan yemos hachamo. Mona Nazirus kaminyan yemos hachamo. Nazir has to count a year, he's in Nazir for 365 days. Okay? Omer Reb Yehuda Maisoya came shish lames. He said, Kimonin Naziros Kimin. So the Tanakama says he's a Nazir, the equivalent of counting, no, not one Naziros. He's the equivalent of saying, I'm a Nazir, multiple, 365 times 30, of 30. Omer Reb Yehuda Maisoya came shish lames. That by the time he finished, he died. He lived out his whole life. 1 second. So that means 365 months. How much is 365 months? 12 into 365 is how many years? That's what it is. Every month he's finished, he starts over. So every year he has 12. So 12 into 365. What? So we said earlier. No. No, because he said Kiminyon. If he would said, I'll be a Nazir, I'll be a Nazir, the equivalent of a year, then it's 365, one lengthy. He says Kiminyon. Minyan is the counting. So the word minyan is, what does minyan mean? Each day is a separate day. That's what Tosfos points out. You hear what he said? All right? Kiminyan yimosachamo. If he said ki yimosachamo, the equivalent of a solar year, then it's long. After the year, he's finished. But he says kimin, the counting, that means each day is counted individually. Okay? Now, the Mishnah says, if he says like a house, like a box, it says we ask him. It says Ronis hakupa kilo mlei chardil. If he said I didn't mean that, I meant the capacity of the box, right? He says I meant the box. I didn't mean that it's difficult. You see it as if it's filled with mustard seed, and these multiples. V'nozir kol yomov. 1 second. Yeah. Someone asked, he's asking, what do we say that we see it as if the box is filled with mustard seed? Let's see the box filled with gourds. So you can put a lot fewer gourds in the box than mustard seed. Mustard seed, we talk about thousands of Nazirus. Right. You can't live that many years. Right. Why do we see it as gourds? You can fit in, let's say, 5 gourds. It's 5 times 30, right? He says that the Mishnah says you see it as mustard seed, not as gourds. It's based on machlokes tanoim. Reb Shimon, the Mishnah is going like Reb Shimon. What's the situation? Was he a person that allows himself into a situation where the question is more chomer than the vaday? Here, if I know exactly what I'm talking about, I know it's very distinct, concrete, it's this and we're finished. What about if a questionable situation, it's unending? Does a person allow himself to complicate his life? Reb Shimon says yes. Even if the questionable situation is more complicated, the person will enter into that state. We'll hear the case. The Tanya. Hareini nozam nashi bekri zeh meyakur. The person says, I'll be a nazir. The person wants to be thankful to Hashem. He says, if after I bring in my harvest, I find 100 core, let's say 100 bushels or more in my silo, I'm happy to be a Nazir. That's what he says. He makes a commitment to Hashem. If in the harvest there's 100 processed grain in my silo, 100 measures, large measures, I'm a Nazir. And then he comes, V'holach u'motzo shenigna v'shovad. He comes, he finds somebody had pilfered his silo, it's empty. It was stolen or it was lost. So he's not sure. So is he a Nazir, not a Nazir? Right? Reb Shimon knows him. Reb Shimon says he's a Nazir. Wait, it's complicated though. It's complicated. No, he's Oser. Shesavik Nazir is Lahachmir. So the Tosas explains over here. I mean, how could he be a Nazir Lahachmir? Factually, let's say there wasn't 100. Let's say there was not 100. So what happens? No, then he's not a Nazir. But he has to conduct himself as a Nazir. So what happens after 30 days? He has to bring a korban. Tzchulun ba'azora. How can he bring a korban? You can only bring a korban as a Nazir if what? If you're a Nazir. But here's his issue. So the Tosas explains, you know what it's speaking about? The person says like this. If there was 100, I'm a Nazir because of my original commitment. If not, I make myself a Nazir. So he's covering both bases. Right? That's the way he does it. Otherwise, it's Tzchulun ba'azora. After 30 days up, how does he bring the korban? He may have not been Nazir because maybe there was less than 30. Because everything was stolen, right? One second. So, nevertheless, Reb Shimon says a person's willing to involve himself even though in a suffix. We'll see in a moment. What happens if he becomes contaminated before he makes the conditional Nazirus? He say, right now, he's not sure. Let's say he's not Tommy yet. He says, I accept it, and if it wasn't, I'll be a Nazir in either case, because otherwise the guy's never getting out of this. The only way a Nazir can get out of his Nazirus, he has to be Karbanos. So let's say, factually, it was stolen. And there was less than 100. It was stolen, less than 100. That means he was never a Nazir. But it may have been stolen. So he is a Nazir. But do we allow him to bring a Korban? We're not going to allow him to bring a Korban. Because there's a chance he may have not been. So we're not going to let him. It's Chulin. So you know what he has to do? He says, if there was 100, I don't have to make myself a Nazir. And if there wasn't, I am a Nazir. So let's say now he becomes contaminated. He'll deal with him like a regular Nazir. What happens before he had a chance to accept new Nazirus on himself, he became contaminated. You know what the halach is? He's stuck for the rest of his life. He can never get out of that. Why? Because we don't know if he ever was contaminated as a Nazir. You understand? If a Nazir becomes contaminated, the Torah says there's a certain process. Right? Let's say before he had a chance to say, I'll be a Nazir even if there wasn't 100. And that subsequently gets contaminated. So we say he's a Nazir. He's definitely a Nazir, became contaminated. So he followed the process. What happens before he had a chance to say that? He became contaminated. Now, he can only start counting new Nazirus only if he brings his Karbanis as a contaminated Nazir. How does he bring Karbanis as a contaminated Nazir? He can't. No, because those Karbanis can only be brought by a he never made himself into a Nazir. So he may have never been the Nazir. He's stuck for life. He's stuck for life as a Nazir that he can never cut his hair, he can never cut the dead, he can never drink wine.
So what do we say if it's not sensible?
No. Reb Shimon holds a person enters, puts himself in a situation where the question could, even though it's going to complicate his life, to that situation. Okay? Oshim, Chatos, and Shlomim. Shlomim you can bring as a gift. Oshim you can't bring as a gift. The Chatos you can bring as a gift. You have to be, no, you have to definitely be a Nazir.
Specific.
You can't. No, you can't. No, right. It's before he accepted upon him a Nazirus, even if he wasn't a Nazir, he became contaminated. So there's a chance he may be a Nazir, but there's a chance he may not be a Nazir. If you're a Nazir, you bring a Chatas, but on chance that you're not a Nazir, you can't bring a Chatas. You can't even consecrate it as a Chatas. So you're stuck. You're stuck in this limbo state for the rest of your life. Before he starts counting, no, you inadvertently violate Shabbos. That's when you bring the Chatos. Right? Here, he can't bring a Chatos because a regular person contaminate himself. Does he bring a Chatos? Of course not. Well, you're doing nothing wrong. If he wasn't a Nazir, why should he bring a Chatos? He has no obligation to bring a chatos. You can't consecrate the chatos to bring it as a chatos. So what is it? Chulin. So you bring a non-consecrated korban to the base of Mikdash. You can't do such a thing. Osham. Osham, you can't donate an osham. You can only create an osham, a guilt offering, if you're obligated. He may not be a nazir. So he's not a nazir. You can't bring the guilt offering. Okay? Let's get back to this. Rabbi Yehuda Matir. Sovdi Shloka. Rabbi Yochanan Afil Tem Rabbi Yehuda. Hosam lo nochas leidel nezirus. Hoch nochas leidel nezirus. So Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan says, no, it could go like Rabbi Yehuda. Because over there, it's a question, he never started the Nazirus. Rabbi Yehuda says, in the case, did he enter into the Nazirus? Over here, the man definitely made himself into the Nazir. The question, what did he mean? Did he mean gourds? Did he mean mustard seed? Did he mean more or less? But he meant multiples. The might here, Hocha Nochsle Nazirus. Over there, he may have not begun the Nazirus. So if he didn't begin, we say he didn't begin. But here, he definitely begun the Nazirus. The question is, no, what do you mean? Here also it's the same question. The Gemara is asking Rabbi Yochanan, what do you mean it could go like Rabbi Yehuda? So he said that means after 10 multiples of 10, he's finished. If you mustard seed, it's forever. So here also, beyond 10, there's a question, did he enter into a new Nazirus? So it's the same thing. It says, Mar asks, Amai lechel kupa kilo mleik shun dunuin utevele takanto. Takanto. What's he? Ho, hey. Second. Lo Nazirus to Kabbalah. So therefore what? He did accept the new Nazirus upon himself. Take a look in Tosfos here. Hochen Nazirus Maithlus. Look at me now. Yeah. Lerzi Kilia. So the Gemara says, Lerzi Kilo Mleikshim Imale Botsek Tavi Takanto. The Soka Daiti Nazirus Kabbalah. Kloma Yigalech Monavshach. Lasov Shalchim Yom Yovi Korban. Chadazis Kabbalah Shapik Magalech. Vi Nami Chardul Kabbalah. Motel Gluche Ach Shalchim Yom. Because Daiti Chiyom Archadil Nazirus Kabbalah. Kloma Harbi Nazirus Lo Nazirus. Achas Or came Shigleach Sof Shloshim Shuvo Sato Lo Nazirus Lo Rabbi Yehuda. Right. Dilma Botsek Vishlim Hashta Domi decree. Yeah. Umishar Rabbi Yehuda Sovalei Rabbi Yehuda Sovalei Kerebi. Sovalei Kerebi. Tanan Rabbi Omer Ein Ze Megaleach Achas L'Shloshim Yom. So Megaleach Achas L'Shloshim Yom Omer Eyalai Nazirus K'Sarosh Chavar Arfa Chafar Oretz Chol Hayom. Yeah. He holds, we're saying Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rebbe. What does it mean he holds like Rebbe? The Omar Chardul min Nazirus Hach Nazirus Oroch Kibul Alei Yomoslo Motzlagel Hilko Chocha Akorchel Noches Lachad Nazirus Filu Botza Kibul Alei. He's saying like this. The reason why you could go see like this. When he says mustard seed, does he mean multiples? Or does he mean unlimited mustard seed? Let's say you have 1,000 mustard seeds in the box. It's one extended. So if that's the case, it's the equivalent of what? Of one Nazirus. So question, what did he enter into? He never began the Nazirus. But if Rabbi Yehuda was like Rebbe, he did begin the Nazirus. Right? Because unless you say Hareini Nazir Kabayis, Nazirus Kabayis, that means you have to say the word multiples of Nazirus. But unless you leave out the word Nazirus. Right? That's Rebbe said in the Mishnah. Where is it? Yeah, Harini knows Mole Habayis or Mole Akub Botkenosa. Imam Rebbe says, if you say Harini Nozik Saroshi, no, he says Nazir in the singular. What does it mean? Like the hairs of my head. one extended one. So the person says, Hareini Nazir Kimoli Bias. So we're saying, what does it mean? Let's say we say it's going, Rebuda would agree here. Of course, it says maybe it means gourds or it means botzek. Let's say it means botzek. One Nazirus. Did he begin his Nazirus? He began. We don't know to what extent. Does it run for 30 days? Does it run for 10,000 days? Right? So if you say it's multiples, then after 30 days it ends. It's a question, does he enter into a new one? So that's the argument of Shimon and Reb Yehuda, right? But in our situation over here, if we say that Reb Yehuda is like Rebbe, so that means what? There's no difference whether you say but one or you say mustard seed. It means he's entering. The question is, where does he end? See, the argument before, when he says, I'll be a Nazir if there's 100 bushels. If there's not 100 bushels, I never began the Nazirus. Right? But over here, he began. The question is only, how long do I go? In that case, even Reb Yehuda agrees that you continue going. So therefore, Reb Yochanan says the Mishnah could even go like Reb Yehuda. It can even go like Reb Yehuda. So on that, the Gemara asks, the Reb Yehuda Sadok Rebbe, did not Rebbe Omer, Ze megaleach ach l'shloshim yom, ve'zo megaleach ach l'shloshim yom, Omer aleyot nezirus kesaroshi, chafaroshi, chol hayom, Reb Yehuda, stop. Rebbe Omer, ein ze megaleach achas l'shloshim yom, he doesn't have to be megalech every 30 days, el b'shem megalech ach l'shloshim yom, harei olai neziros, right? If you say neziros, neziros means multiples. But if you don't say Hareini Nozik Saroshi, what does that mean? The extent of the zero should be the equivalent of as much hair as I have in my head. So the person has, let's say, 1,000 hair on his head, hair follicles, it's 1,000 days, right? So Gemara asks, Reb Yehuda misova lo Rebbe? Does Reb Yehuda like Rebbe? What not Hareini Nozik Kimini Mosachamo? Omer Reb Yehuda Maisa Hoya v'kev shishlam mes. Iyam Shlom Naziros come Kabbalah Yahainu time came to Yishlom Mes. Eliyamrit Chadu Naziros Kabbalah Kimihave Hashloma Klal. He is phenomenal. Reb Yehuda concludes in the Mishnah. We're saying that. Well, no, just let me clarify. We want to do this. We're saying that Reb Yehuda holds like Rebbe. The verse says Hareini Nazir Kasaroshi. What does that mean? I want to be a Nazir, the equivalent of the hair of my head. If he wants to be multiple times, he would say Hareini Naziros in plural. Then it's multiples of the hairs of his head. But if he says Hareini Nazir in the singular, it means of the days of my Nazirus, the one Nazirus is the equivalent of the amount of hair I have in my head. Okay? So the Gemara says, so if Reb Yehuda holds like Rebbe, so Reb Yochanan is very good. The Mishnah go like Reb Yehuda. Why? Because with the case of the box, since he began, the question is only how long does it go? Okay? Gemara says, but you see clearly from the Mishnah is not good. Reb Yehuda does not agree with Rebbe. Because Reb Yehuda, there was a story, a man says, I should be a Nazir as much as the hair of my head. And it says, he died before he completed it. So if you say, like Rebbe, it's one long, so let's say it's 1,000 days. What, a person can't live 1,000 days? Well, let's say it's 5,000 years. A person doesn't live 5,000 days. But if you say it's multiples of 5,000, you can't live that many years. So you see clearly from the Mishnah that Reb Yehuda does not agree with Rebbe that even though you say Nazir in the singular, he means multiples of the hairs.